Welcome to the Veterinary Compassion Project podcast. I'm Dr. Erin Holder. At VCP, our mission is to support veterinary professionals and animal care workers by providing practical strategies and resources to help prevent and manage compassion fatigue and burnout. Today, I'm joined by Gigi Tsontos from Not One More Vet. Gigi joined NOMV in January 2024. After studying social welfare policy at the University of Kansas, Gigi spent 2 years in Mali, West Africa as a Peace Corps volunteer, returning to complete a Master of Science in Social Work at Columbia University and a second Master's in Public Administration from San Diego State University. Her career led her to work in social and homeless services, mental health, victims' rights, and nutrition, supporting administrative roles and becoming a clinical social worker licensed in California and Kansas. Gigi lives in Kansas with her husband and 5 furry children. She sees the world as her home and has traveled extensively. Gigi, welcome. We're so happy to have you, and we're so happy to hear about your very important work. So, can you just start off by telling those of us who've never heard of NOMV, tell us what it is that you guys do?
Absolutely. First off, thank you all for this invitation. I love coming and talking about Nambi to the world. So appreciate that so much. And our like missions just make me even happier. So thank you so much for all you guys do. Not One More Vet, or NOMV as we lovingly call it, is an organization, an NGO that works within the veterinary community to help veterinary professionals of all arenas. So support staff, vets, techs, anybody who works in the arena to survive and thrive in their professional careers and their lives. And so we do this in three particular ways: education, resources, and support. Our education is getting out there, talking to people, much like this podcast today, supporting webinars, creating materials. I like to say our materials are digestible and kind of simple, easy for the moment when you're struggling. We have a 10 mental health tip card that you can have in your pocket just as a reminder, things like that. And we have our Clear Blueprint program, which is a practice certification program that really looks at how can I assess my clinic, the overall functioning, and make sure that I have the inputs and resources to make it better. No matter how good it is, we can always improve. And we always know that the changing environment means we need to stay up on how to make our clinics and hospitals more well-being friendly. Our support programs, our peer support programs, NOMV started in 2014 when a group of vets came together after the unfortunate suicide of Dr. Sophia Yin. And they said, we need to talk, we need a place. And so they started with the support of Dr. Nicole MacArthur, creating that space through forums. They created a forum, invited other colleagues, people got on, they talk, they think about, what's going on. They can share anonymously, they can ask questions for support in this, and that's grown to over 40,000 vets as of now. Then we have our Lifeboat, which is an asynchronous, anonymous online support program in which we match peers. So if you're a tech, you're matched with techs who are trained, and then they have mental health professionals. And that's a place where you can anonymously say, today I'm really pissed off at my boss and I don't know what to do. It isn't a crisis situation, but it's one in which kind of thinking it through and getting some advice is helpful. Or, I'm thinking of leaving the field, or I just need tips on what to do to stay, those kind of things. And we really do that support chain through having mental health professionals support that interaction as well. And our newest program is called Veterinary Mental Health Support. We're super proud that they came on board last year. And what they do is psychoeducational support groups and individual sessions that just help you talk through with a trained professional things that are going on. It is not therapy. It's a way of talking and thinking and maybe reframing ideas and thoughts and coming up with maybe some solutions, or at least closer to the solutions to help you get through a moment. Um, And then we also have our resources, which we're very proud of as well. We provide what's called NOMV's list. So if you have a therapist or you worked with a coach or someone that worked with you and you felt they really understood vet medicine, you can submit them. We'll make sure they're licensed or have their certifications, whatever it might be, and then we'll list them on our site so people can find them to work with them. And that's really important to us that it's veterinary industry provided. So we want it to come from those of you who are working in the field so that we know that the person has experience within the field. And then we have support grants for individuals, which I'm just so proud of. We help support those basic needs. If someone's struggling with uh, food insecurity, housing insecurity, transportation insecurity, medical or mental health needs, and they need a little pick me up to help them get through, we can do that. We all know how important those basic needs are to mental health. And then finally, we have our emergency grant program, which assists clinics in staying in operation during times of disaster. So think about the LA fires recently, last year with all of the hurricanes down south in the US, even political unrest at times, and different things like that happen around the world. And all of those are available to anyone around the world. So those are some of the things we do. I wish I could list every single thing, but my team does so much and just
Thing.
so proud of them.
This is so amazing. Thank you. Like, I thank you for listing all of the things that you do and also saying that it's just the tip of the iceberg. I like to talk a lot about a VCP, a spokes on the wheel. Like there's so many different things that leads to burnout and compassion fatigue. And you guys pretty much have the mental health aspect of that just completely covered. It's incredible. We're not reinventing the wheel by trying to create some different program. Our goal is to divert people to you because you guys are the top, I think, in the veterinary industry for sure at helping with mental health crisis. So thank you for doing that. Thank you guys for dedicating so much of your time. So what got you involved? How did you find your way to NOMV?
Well, this is always an interesting question because I'm not a vet, I'm not a tech, I haven't worked in the industry. However, I grew up in Kansas, as you've already heard, and I've lived all over the world and such. And in those experiences, I've been engaged with the veterinary profession in some form or fashion since I was a young person. My grandparents had a farm, so we had large animal vets around. We had our own companion animals, and I've always, when I've been able to, living in a place where I could, I've always had my own pet as a I've been a guardian to a pet or now five, sometimes six, eight, whatever happens. And so it was December 2023, and I kept seeing this thing called NOMV come across, not one more vet. And I was like, oh, it must be the veterans, and I was like, okay, cool. I love that there's support to veterans. It's an arena that's much needed. But it kept coming across, and I was like, why is this always coming across my desk? I need to look into this. So I started to look into it, and I was super excited that the executive director role for Not One More Vet was available. And so submitted my application, and through several discussions and things, they actually chose me to come on board. And I'm so excited because I knew about the industry issues. Um, and it was just a really great way for me to use passion that I have for animal caregivers, for mental health and well-being, and bring that all into like a nice package of supporting this community that's so important to me and so many others. So I'm super excited. I remember thinking I got a message on a Sunday from the person that I was connecting with, and I was like, oh no, they're gonna tell me I didn't get it. And my husband's like, yeah, you got it. What are you talking about? Right. And then she's like, yeah, let's. So I was like, of course I'll hop on a call. I don't care what day it is. And they offered the position, and I was like, yes. I don't even have to think about it because it's just
Oh,
such a worthy cause and just such a great environment. So
And surprising, isn't it, that so many of the general public do not have any concept of what veterinary professionals go through? And something that we
Yes.
hear all the time, right? Like, what?
Yeah.
Veterinary medicine was like the funnest career ever, and instead one of the highest suicide rates of medical professionals. So that is a very disconnect with the public education.
Yes.
So, tell me what you're experiencing in your role with veterinarians. What are you seeing out there in
Yeah.
the field?
Sure. So I do want to acknowledge that over the last decade with NOMV and AVMA and other organizations, there's been a good switch in talking about it within the profession. So the first step is always acknowledging, right? So if I'm really proud to be here at this precipice when the field is actually acknowledging concerns and issues and making it a priority to think about well-being and mental health. So that's the first thing I want to say. What we're seeing is that this is a tough field, a tough industry. Think about it. You come to work and if you're a companion animal vet or tech or support staff, you get to see that puppy. You also end up seeing a situation in which maybe an animal was harmed in some way. You might have to discuss euthanasia. Um, you might have just many multiple small traumas throughout the day that you have to cope with. And you have people like myself, a pet guardian who once anything happens with them, my eyes tear up and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, and I'm not trying to put it on the vet or the tech or the support team member. But I'm sure they're feeling my feelings, right? And so they have all of those pieces of the puzzle that they deal with. And so what I'm seeing and what we're hearing a lot about is that overwhelm, those small stressors that add up, the feeling of burnout, which is a psychological disorder that really talks about how intense their role is. And then you have these secondary stressors throughout the day, and that leads to compassion fatigue. When you're empathetic, you end up bringing a lot of that on yourself. I know I'm in a care profession and I've worked in all types of realms and it's important to think about. So we're hearing the good side that people are talking and making decisions that are better and thinking about the culture they want to work in and the one they want to provide to their team. We're also hearing that this is still an issue. And so it's something that we want to continue to work on. Prevention is the best intervention, right? So
Mm.
giving skill sets, talking about this early, getting students involved in prepping their own well-being, setting boundaries, thinking about, like I said, what atmosphere they want to be in. If you're a large animal vet, a companion animal, a herd animal, a food chain vet, they all have different pluses and minuses and things that you're dealing with, but all of them have a high stressor rate. And that's what we're hearing from people. And not only the veterinarian, the tech, the support staff, the one who gets the phone call. I always tell this story, Dr. Aaron, that my third day at NOMV, one of my cats went into like a severe kidney issue and we had to take him to the emergency. Again, my tearing up, right? And the vet was so stressed in the back, you could just tell. And then the support team member came up and said, "Let me reframe. Let me go through this again. What the vet was sharing with you." And I just thought, wow, what an amazing person to kind of see my stress and be able to say, okay, let's take a moment, breathe, and I'll get your questions answered, right? And so when you have to do that several times a day, it takes a lot out of you. So we're hearing a lot of different things good. And people are really making the choice to make well-being important in their lives. And that makes me super happy.
I think that's the biggest thing because if we're not taking care of ourselves, we can't possibly continue to take care of others. And this is truly managing the pet, caring for the pet, but a double whammy of managing and taking care of the owner. So
Absolutely.
it's a lot.
Mhm.
And I love that you guys are talking about students. And one of the things that you said that made my heart so happy is actually getting them to understand what situation, what professional setting they want to be in before they set forth in that. That is huge. If you think that a big fat paycheck from corporate, is what you need, but you haven't thought about what it means to work for corporate or going to work at a very small practice where you don't have a lot of doctors to help you and give you advice. If you're not processing these things before you get out in the world, you're gonna hit a wall and pretty quickly on. So, how is NOMV actually working with students? Do you get the opportunity to go into vet schools?
Well, so this is an area we're really trying to grow. So I actually did a series at one vet school where I was working with the academics and the other professors, the ones who are in the animal clinic, to talk about how to create a culture within there where students are practicing these and the team members are practicing it too.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
we also speak a lot at different schools. I got to go to Alabama recently, which I'd never been. So I was like, this is so cool. I was speaking to a bunch of first year students about this topic and what you can do to kind of create your community so that you kind of keep abate this from the situation. Like we want to keep you from doing that. So we are doing it. We have different programming for students that we have done and we've been adjusting to see. As you know, students in any industry are busy. And in veterinary medicine, they're busy and they have a lot on their plate. And don't feel like they have a lot of time. So we're trying to find ways to partner with organizations and academics that we can participate, that we can be available to. So excitingly, next year we're going to be at UC Davis on the Health and Wellbeing Aggie Vet 2026 conference. It's all NOMV participants. We're my team members, staff, board, and others are coming in to give their perspectives. So we're doing what we can to get out there and really talk to schools too about how they bring up students into the system. So
I mean, how hard can it really be to incorporate this as part of our curriculum? I feel like you guys and VCP, like we should keep moving forward until it's part of the curriculum and it's not something that we do an evening presentation and bring, pizza to it where half the kids will show up and then in their minds like I've checked that box of
Mhm.
how to take care of myself. Now I'm fine. I can move on. Like, I really feel strongly
Absolutely.
about starting with the students.
Agreed. We do too. I think, when I talk to academics, it's much like race CEs after you're out. There's only so much time and space, and a lot of what you have to do is that medical piece. But I believe that schools are making it a priority to make it a part of curriculum and integrate it a bit more. Um, and some are doing really great things with that. So when we're talking about being in the clinic setting, we're talking about the skill set of communication. I mean, what every human needs to understand communication. When you're in high stress situations, you need to understand how to communicate, how to listen, how to bring yourself to the table in various ways for various audiences. And that's not necessarily been in my understanding, it's not been as
Yeah.
high on the curriculum, but I do think keeping that moving and thinking about what boundaries do students need to learn to set from the get-go? What cultures do they want to sit in? And if they want to be in corporate, knowing what they need to do that, or if they want to be
Exactly.
an equine vet, knowing that they're probably going to be in a field in the middle of the night with something going wrong and being okay with that. And they likely do, but it's different when you're in it, right? When you
Yes.
start doing it. And so having them ask the right questions, having the culture in schools allow for people to talk about what's going on for them, showing from the professors, from the educators, from the people who are there, hey, I've also struggled. And I want to say that about anyone, clinics, students, anyone. When I talk to even non-V team members or volunteers, every day isn't pretty for me either. And so I try to share with them when when I've had a time when I've needed to reach out or struggled in a different way or felt like I didn't have the answer to something and hopefully modeling that in school settings and in clinic settings and in settings like NOMV, we can help move that needle a bit.
And I feel like a lot of the problem in veterinary medicine is we're set up for this very isolating life of trying to be successful, not feeling like if we reach out for help that we're thriving or survive,
Mhm.
we are built to um be so protective of ourselves that maybe sometimes we don't even understand what's happening. And I know that was for me that I didn't even realize that I was heading quickly to burnout. So tell me some of the things that our listeners maybe some early indicators. What may be some things that could be happening to them where they may be heading for some compassion fatigue or burnout if they don't get some intervention and help.
Yeah, so it seems really simple, but when you think about emotional signs, you want to think about someone who's maybe irritable, they seem more sad than normal, they withdraw, maybe they say things like about feelings of hopelessness. And I don't mean to be trite, it's very important to just listen to what someone's actually saying. And if people are showing up differently than you knew them, or they start to show up differently, check in as early as you want, check in on day two, check in on day one when you see any kind of thing. Hey, how's it going? What's going on? Physical signs, like someone who seems more fatigued than normal. Maybe they're saying like I have headaches or sleep problems. Maybe they're saying, just physically they're just not able to do the things that they were, or they start to have some kind of chronic or even not so chronic issue um, like I said, headaches or, difficulties with gastrointestinal things, just anything that's a change. It doesn't mean that they're in burnout or have compassion fatigue. It means that you're trying to get there before they do, as you start to see the symptoms. When they start to be detached from the situation, like, yeah, I just can't anymore, or they don't seem as motivated. Maybe they're not, and this is not a reflection on any one person or anything, but maybe that you're seeing a difference in the way that they provide care that you're concerned about. So those are some challenges, but I think what I want the message to be is, if you see a difference in someone, that's the time to check in. If you feel a difference in yourself, it's the time to reach out. Um, and that can be within your clinic, within the profession, it can be outside of it, but it's never too early to make a change. I've had positions where I was working 365 days a year, getting calls, and at one point I was like, I can't keep up. I can't do this anymore. And I didn't see the signs in myself until later, where when I was home, I was sleeping more than I wanted to. I was more irritable, although, maybe that's partially me sometimes, but um, just those kind of things. So even though I've given you some areas to think about, I think it's very personal. And if I were you, if you have a concern, if you're seeing a change in yourself or someone else, take the step, take the step.
I love that you talked about checking in because I feel like sometimes our office managers are upstairs in an office and they're not circulating on the floor because they've got so much to do. And, are the owners checking in with the office managers for their compassion fatigue? But if we
Yeah.
can get sort of eyes on the floor, walking around, listening, being present, being there intentionally, not to look over people's shoulders like, are you dropping that catheter right? But just to
Right.
see like what's the energy and how they feel. And then if you check in early with them, perhaps you are giving them permission to maybe not this one time, but maybe in a week or two to start feeling safe and
Yeah.
that they can start talking about what is really troubling them because probably maybe a high percentage is not actually what's going on in a day-to-day life. It's what's going on internally.
internally, and just think about all the things that come through for us in our lifetime, besides work. So they're also going home to whatever's going on at home.
Yeah.
Their children, partners, financial things, so any way to create that safe space. And if you don't, I think what I always tell people is checking in doesn't have to be a certain way. It's just like, how's it going?
Yep.
Hi, how are you doing? And if you've noticed something, even saying, hey, I've noticed you're not kind of your bubbly self. Like, is there something I can help with? And if you don't feel comfortable doing that, maybe somebody around you does, and you can collaborate with them. Or as an individual, if you're experiencing that, reach out to your people. If you have a great classmate, even if they're now working in Kansas and you're in New York, give them a ring and say, it's been a little bit crazy right now. I'd love to just connect, or reach out to Lifeboat and connect with someone, or join VMHS support groups, or reach out to somebody somewhere somehow that can help you, because it's it's not a life that's thriving or surviving if you just don't feel connected. And so one of the biggest things that we've learned is that connection of positive connections, engagement with others, having a community, those things help people with their resilience, which abates things like compassion fatigue and burnout. They use that space in a different way. So, yeah.
For decades, we've been using support groups, and they've been
Mm,
shown to be absolutely positively successful.
yes,
And the reason is because the first and foremost feeling, oh my God, somebody else feels like me, and I'm not just doing this alone. And I know
absolutely.
you talked about that we're starting to talk about this more, and it's definitely the first step. And now we've got to cross over that barrier. Um, Still the stigma about reaching out. And I too agree that the more connections, which is why Veterinary Compassion Project wants to hold a retreat, because what
Yeah,
a wonderful idea to get a group of people in the room together that could maybe make lifelong connections and that don't have to
100%.
feel embarrassed about saying, I'm having a really bad day and this is what's going on. Not for somebody across the line to solve their problem, but just to be able to listen to them and understand exactly where they're coming from. Which is a thing I love so much about NOMV, that you're so veterinary centric. Like, veterinarians that are in the field that have experienced this. These are the people that are helping. So it's not just other social workers who haven't had experience with this. It's just a collaboration of a lot of amazing people. So I really
Absolutely.
love that. You guys are very important in our field.
Well, thank you so much. And we know we can't do it alone, so we're glad to be partnering with places like Veterinary Compassion Project and others, because you know, I think the more available, the more opportunities for retreats or whatever it might be that makes that person a little different. I just had this conversation. No two support groups are alike, no two retreats are alike, no two therapists are alike. And so if that thing isn't the thing for you, it's okay to reach out. I actually have a private practice, small, because I spend more time at NOMV, which is wonderful. But uh, sometimes I'll see that it's not the right fit, and I'll say, hey, I think there's probably someone that maybe you would mesh with differently. And I think that's important for you as an individual reaching out, to understand that it's okay to say, like, this isn't the right thing for me. That retreat sounds wonderful and my friend Gigi would love it, but like not really my cup of tea,
Absolutely.
or whatever it might be. So I'm excited to see your retreat come about this time.
Thank you. Us too. Yeah, we're very excited. Yeah, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. Before we wrap up, I just like the idea of giving people different choices of what their own healing looks like. We don't know what their healing looks like. We certainly don't know what they've been through. So by providing a buffet of ideas of what can help, I think is crucial. And we just now keep talking and keep talking and keep talking until they keep stepping forward and helping. And I'm so honored for you to be here and honored for us to be partnering together to help all these beautiful people stay in the profession, because we're
Yes.
certainly headed towards a crisis and shortage of veterinarians. So we're going
Yeah,
to have to buckle down and keep the good people in and keep working
absolutely.
hard.
Absolutely. Well, just to wrap that up in my mind, I just want everyone out there who's listening to know that they're not alone, and we're always better together. So,
Beautiful. I don't think anything more needs to be said. Thank you so much, Gigi.
thank you, Dr. Aaron and Amanda and everybody for letting us come on board today.
Thank you so much.